The idea, as we have often said, is that when you form an incarnation, when you form a personality, an ego structure, in order to experience physical reality, it is generally composed of definitions, beliefs, of emotions, of thought patterns, behaviors that comprise what you think of yourself as the physical person, the physical identity that you have. Those definitions are the blueprint level that determines what it is you are capable of experiencing physical reality to be. So beliefs, by their nature, by design, have to contain the ability, have to contain the resonance and the frequencies to get you to buy into them strongly, or you can't really have the focus necessary to believe what it is they're telling you and have a physical experience that is representative of that specific particular belief. So all beliefs will make themselves seem to be, in some ways, the only belief at that moment that it is possible to have. Now, being that you have both positive and negative beliefs, when you have the positive belief, in your mind, it's not really such a big deal that it is convincing you, or doesn't really need to convince you, of the good times you're having, of the good feelings that you're experiencing. But because really, truly, deep down, and also in your higher mind, so to speak, you really know the truth, that you really are infinite, eternal, indestructible beings who are absolutely worthy of the unconditional love and support of creation, because you really do know that in your heart of hearts, negative beliefs have to work very, very hard and very, very specifically in order to allow you to buy into the willing suspension of disbelief about that truth, in order for you to experience the concept of polarity. It's actually very, very difficult innately to buy into something negative about your true being. So, negative beliefs have to rely on a series of tricks and tools. They have to specifically target certain ideas and experiences within you and magnify, amplify, get you to focus on them in a very specific way in order for you to actually even let go of the notion that you are this worthy being and actually convince you that you're not worthy, convince you that life is a struggle, convince you that things aren't easy, because you know deep down they actually are. You know deep down in your natural self that things are very simple. And so, in order to experience the idea of polarity, in order to experience the idea of physical reality as an experience where you go through a process of forgetting who you are in order to remember who you are from a new point of view so you can expand your understanding of yourself, you make yourself, shall we say, available to all of the different ideas and negative beliefs that can exist within the realm of forgetfulness. Thus, working through those negative beliefs, transforming those negative beliefs into positive ones, transforming darkness into light, transforming limitation into freedom is the entire point. And so you will usually start with some form of negative belief that is representative of the theme you chose to explore in this life, that will raise its head in all the challenges that crop up that are representative of that theme in your life. But again, because a large part of being able to rediscover yourself from a new point of view is the fact that you have imposed forgetfulness upon yourself as a way of being able to do that, then the negative beliefs can seem from time to time to be very, very strong, very powerful, very profound. Now, of course, they are only deriving their power from you, but they are giving you the opportunity to explore the kind of scenarios that as an unlimited being you otherwise would not really be capable of exploring. Nevertheless, now that you are really approaching the end of the cycle of negativity and going more into the cycle of positive awareness, awakening, expansion of consciousness, now is the time to begin to truly remember that all the negative beliefs that you may have been dealing with and some of the ones you may continue to deal with for a little while longer in your life are really, really just ideas, in a sense, really smoke and mirrors, and that they really have to work very, very hard and focus very, very strongly on very specific issues within you in order to get you to buy into the idea that you are not worthy, in order to get you to buy into the idea that you should not investigate them, because they are, by again design, attempting to perpetuate themselves, attempting to reinforce themselves, attempting to make it seem as if they are the only reality that's possible. And when that idea comes from the negative side, they have many, many, many tools and tricks at their disposal to get you to buy into that scenario. Let us begin to examine some of those tools and tricks and expand upon them a little bit further so that you can really lock into this idea.
Convince you no other belief is as real.
All right, so we have touched on this a little bit. One of the first things that a negative belief must do to get you to stop looking elsewhere for an idea is convince you that they are really representative of reality and everything else is a fantasy.
Convince you no other belief is possible.
If, when they attempt to convince you that only they are real, and yet you still might have enough self-empowerment to go looking elsewhere and extract yourself from that belief, they will, as I said, amp up the power, magnify the power, and attempt to convince you that no other belief is possible.
Convince you positive beliefs are negative.
This is a very sneaky one. Because again, what they will do to convince you to stay exactly where they want you is they will color and filter an idea that might be representative of your truth, of your excitement, and make it appear to be something that is not, in fact, may make it appear to be something quite scary that you would want to stay away from. That's another trick they have to keep you exactly where they want you.
Convince you negative beliefs are positive.
This is the other side of the coin. Not only do they have to convince you that the positive beliefs are negative, but they have to convince you that they have your best interests at heart so that you will seek them out anytime you encounter a true positive reality that they have convinced you is scary. They will then also augment that with, oh, there, come here. I understand you. You're safe over here. I'll protect you from that big, bad, positive belief. Making themselves appear to be the hero to which you will gravitate.
Convince you to take negative things personally.
Many times the idea is that when you see other people who are going through negative issues, dealing with negative issues, you will understand that people who are afraid to dive deep in themselves and explore those issues will often project their own issues on other people, such as yourself. And if you don't have the wherewithal to neutralize the idea and recognize the difference between something that is actually your issue and something that is their issue, the negative belief may in fact convince you that what they're telling you about you is actually true, when in fact all they're actually doing is talking about themselves. Many people will resent being shown an example of what they believe they have failed at if they see someone succeeding at things they believe they cannot attain, and will project that resentment on others in the form of blaming others or saying others have the very negative traits that they themselves actually have but are in denial about within themselves because they're afraid to look at it based on what their negative beliefs have told them they should not do. You should not look at this. So the idea of neutralizing this is to remember not to take things personally. It's always wise to listen to someone and see if their advice can be used as advice or their perspective might be representative of something you need to look at. But if you realize that it is simply their issue, then the negative belief will do everything in its power to keep you in the negativity by convincing you that what they're telling you about you, that is a negative idea, is actually true. You have to learn to tell the difference between your issues and theirs.
Convince you to blame others for your negative experience.
Yes, again, this is the other side of that coin from the person that's doing the blaming and the accusing and the projecting, is again, the negative belief will keep you in denial about the fact that you are dealing with that negative belief because it makes itself seem to be very scary, and therefore you can't look at that because it'll get even scarier. It'll get bigger and growl at you if you come close. So in order to preserve yourself, it activates the idea of your survival mechanism and says, this isn't about you. It must be caused by someone else. So blame someone else, project someone else for the things you are scared about and fearful about within yourself so that you don't have to look at it. You can just foist it off on someone else and then it isn't your problem anymore.
Convince you that you will suffer if you change your belief.
Oh yes, this is a good one. The idea of the tortures of the damned, allowing you to know that you are safe where you are, and this is another way of painting a positive reality in an extremely negative light by saying, look, even though you may not really be absolutely happy, you are comfortable and safe. And if you change from where you are, no matter how negative you may realize it is, I'm convincing you that where you think you want to go is going to be so much more difficult, so much scarier, that you really want to stay with what is familiar, because you are going to really suffer if you really try for that thing that you really prefer. And in fact, you may even fail at it, which would make you even more miserable. So why not just stay here where it's comfortable and safe? In my clutches.
Convince you you'll feel less lonely if others reinforce the negative belief.
This again is the idea of misery loves company. If you feel that you are in the idea of a negative state, a misery state, but you want to feel the idea that you are not alone so that you don't have to feel this by yourself, then you will invite in others who are just as miserable, and you will invite them to make you even more miserable, and you them, so that you can stay in a state that seems to be the common state, and thus, since everyone's doing it, I don't need to change. That's the idea. Look, everyone's doing it. Why do you need to be different? We're all miserable. Just stay that way.
Convince you it's too difficult to change.
Again, this goes hand in hand with some of the things we have already said, but this can be done in a variety of ways. And again, they will pinpoint within you beliefs that you may already have bought into, and they will amplify and magnify those specific things that you've already found to be difficult and make them seem even more difficult if you go in a different direction.
Convince you that it's impossible to change.
Again, same idea. It is simply against the laws of nature. You are what you are who you are. Don't rock the boat. There's nothing you can do about it.
Convince you to impart negative meaning to all situations.
Of course, because if you suddenly realize that everything is actually neutral and you can actually choose the meaning and get the effect based on the meaning, well, then the negative belief has lost its hold on you because suddenly you've neutralized it and it's just like any other belief. So it will again convince you that the only realistic thing to do is to impart negative meaning to every situation that looks in any way, shape, or form like anything you have ever been taught should be defined as negative, and not even allow you the chance to think that it could be defined in any other way. This is what everyone says this means. Why, again, go against the grain? You know that this is a bad thing. Everyone says this is a bad thing. So obviously it must actually be a bad thing. So please don't try to redefine it, because then you will just look silly. You will look like you are pie-in-the-sky fantasy. Everyone knows what the reality actually is.
Convince you to feel powerless to change by diminishing ability.
Again, if you allow yourself to be in the grip long enough of certain negative beliefs, they will actually make you feel that your energy is being drained away anytime you move in the direction of something that might be positive, to convince you that really you don't have the ability to do this. They will give you tiredness in a sense. They will make you feel like it's just not worth it. They will make you feel like this is going to be a real struggle, a real effort. They will make you actually feel weaker in a sense, because they give you more power by staying in the negative side, and they take that energy away when you move toward the positive side. It's not that you actually are weaker, it's just that by comparison they make it appear as if you're weaker because they infuse you with so much power when you come back in their direction.
Convince you to feel helpless to change by amplifying fear.
And again, they will prey upon the idea of any other negative belief that might generate the actual experience of fear, and they will pump power and energy into that fear to amplify it so much that you become so terrified, so frozen with terror about moving in the positive direction that you simply can do nothing about it. Or at least make it seem as if that's the case.
Convince you it's in your best interest to imagine the worst outcome.
Again, this goes hand in hand with the concept that you are being more realistic if you always imagine the worst. Because again, otherwise it reinforces the idea that if you don't look at life that way, people will think that you're some kind of Pollyanna, that you're not realistic, that you don't have your feet planted firmly on the ground, that you can't be trusted with things because you have a flighty imagination, so on and so forth, that you just live in a fantasy world. So by imagining the worst first, people will see you as, oh yes, the very realistic assessment, because that's the way everyone knows the world is, and then you'll be taken seriously. But again, that's the trap. Because everyone would like to be taken seriously, negative beliefs will equate the idea of being taken seriously with the idea of projecting always the worst case scenario for yourself, and pretty soon that becomes your habit.
Convince you that they have your best interests at heart.
Absolutely, as we've already touched on, the idea that, look, I'm taking care of you here. I'm not going to let harm come to you. I know that's a big bad world out there, and if you go and try and live your dreams in that big, black void of the unknown, well, I'm looking out for you. I'm protecting you. I'm keeping you from that big bad void with all of the monsters that are hiding there for you. I really, really am the one that is behind you. I have your back. I have your best interest at heart. So again, please stay in this vibration, because otherwise, well, if I'm not with you, who knows what might happen to you that would even be scarier than I can even imagine.
Convince you that the end justifies the means.
This is a big one in your society, because negative beliefs will convince you again by turning around the idea that positive is negative and negative is positive, will get you to start acting in negative ways, thinking that it's actually going to result in a positive outcome, which is simply not possible. The end and the means are one. So negative behavior will become the norm, and negative beliefs will constantly reinforce that negative behavior as an actual means to a positive end, which will never happen. Because it will then keep you searching and keep you searching and keep you thinking, yes, this is all going to work out, even though you're going about things in a very negative way. It will only lead to the amplification of more negativity, which is exactly what the negative belief wants to happen.
Reinforce their reality through negative synchronicity.
Synchronicity abounds all the time. But of course, the idea is that when you're in a negative state, the kind of synchronous reflections you're going to get are also going to be reflective of that negativity. So this is what you call bad luck in your language, where people say, well, if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. The idea, again, is that when you're in a negative state, of course, that's going to be reinforced by synchronicity, because synchronicity is just a representation of a mechanism that is neutral, and it doesn't have a mind of its own, and it doesn't really care what kind of energy you put into the machine. The machine can only churn out what kind of energy you put in. So negative beliefs know this, and they will use the negative synchronicity when you're in the negative state, when they've got you in that negative state, and the negative synchronicity crops up to say, see? Told you so. The world is a big bad place. Look at this. You just need to follow what I'm telling you and better things will happen. That's where they use that other idea that just keep doing these negative things and something good will happen. But negative synchronicity will keep piling up and piling up and piling up, and they will have to work harder and harder and harder and harder to convince you that this is still the road to take. This is why so many people on your planet find that when they finally get to the point where they are so sick and tired of being in that state, they will finally allow themselves to change. But the reason you get so sick and tired of being in that state is because you've been in that state for so long, because the negative belief was capable of convincing you to stay in that state much longer than you really, really had to. That's why you're so exhausted and finally allow yourself to change. This is one of the loopholes in the idea of the negative belief, is that it will exhaust you to the point where one way or another you will finally exit that state of being. But you can exit it positively or you can exit it negatively. Sometimes the negative exit you refer to as suicide.
Prevent you from seeing positive opportunities.
As we have often said, you cannot perceive what you are not the vibration of first. If you are of a certain vibration that is negative, you simply are incapable of imagining positive opportunities. They're just invisible to you. Just don't think that way from a negative state. But when you're in a positive state, then all the opportunities that could be positive will show up in the positive synchronicity. And you'll have the capability of imagining what they may be and even creating some opportunities on your own. But again, the negative belief will do its best to make sure that you stay in a state where you can't even imagine that there might be a positive opportunity. You just won't understand the language of positive reality by steeping yourself in the negative energy.
Prevent you from finding the core belief by getting you to focus on secondary ones.
This is a favorite trick, so to speak, of the deep core negative belief, is that it will surround itself with all sorts of shells and layers of other secondary and tertiary level beliefs, allowing you to think, well, if they're going to come looking, I'm going to make sure they find this and they find that. It's red herrings and decoys everywhere, so that you think, oh, I found the negative belief. Oh, goody, it's gone now. And you move on with your life and suddenly find that your behavior is the same and your feelings are the same. And you wonder, what the heck happened? I thought I let that go. Well, there is the negative belief deep down in its little lair going, hee hee hee. They haven't found me. And it will keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that until you finally achieve the level of willingness that is necessary for you to just break through all those different levels and really look for the core definition, which when you find it and let that go will allow the secondary and tertiary level negative beliefs to just collapse because now they have no more foundation.
Distract you from investigating your beliefs.
Oh, that's a big one too. Yes, yes, I am going to go about investigating those. Oh, shiny. Oh, what was I doing? Oh, yes, yes, I'm going to get to the bottom of these Oh, that looks like fun. The negative belief will do that too. Look at that. Oh, look at that. You've been wanting to do that for a while, right? I'm your pal. I'm your buddy. Let's go do that. That looks like much more fun than looking for me. It will do anything it can to prolong the process, in other words.
Convince you to believe they're not doing any of these things.
Exactly. As somebody has said, colloquially speaking, one of the greatest tricks of the devil is convincing you he doesn't exist. Yes? So the idea is that this is really what's happening, and that's what that phrase comes from, is that negative beliefs will also impart to you such a willing suspension of disbelief that you actually will not even see or be capable of imagining that such a belief even exists. You will think this is coming from the outside This is a true victim mentality now, where you think everything is against me. This is paranoia. This is saying the world is to blame. This is saying I am a victim and everything is happening to me in life instead of happening through me in life. This is where the negative belief really gets you to believe that there isn't something happening within your consciousness, that it's all real out there and it's all coming from out there, and there is no negative belief. This is just the way the world is. It's a cruel, mean place. Get over it.
Convince you to deny that negative beliefs exist within you.
Same thing.
Convince you to believe you're the exception to the ability to change.
Absolutely. This is, again, an amplification of the state of arrogance, where, oh yes, and the state of victimization, where, oh yes, I know you could probably change if you really wanted to. I know you could do it. Everyone can do it, but somehow I can't. I'm the exception to the rule. That's actually, even though it seems like a victim position, is actually a state of high arrogance, that you would think that out of all beings in creation, you're the only one who cannot change. That's calling attention to yourself in a very negative way, which amplifies the negative energy within you.
Convince you to feel comfortable with negativity.
Oh yes, if you live with it long enough and it has done its job to scare you that every other direction is going to be worse, then you will settle down into that couch and it will start to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and eat away at you very slowly over time until you find that you and the couch have fused into one thing. And now if you want to go and do something, now it's convinced you that you really can't even move, because now not only do you have the weight of your own self, but you have the weight of the couch. And now the couch has fused to the floor of the house. And now you really can't do anything about it, so you might as well just stay there and enjoy it. Enjoy wallowing in your misery. This is what happens when you call it wallowing in misery. You just give up, give over all your power, and this is just the way it is, and you just fade away.
Convince you to believe no positive tools will work.
This is also a big one, because again, the idea is that they paint all positive ideas in a negative light. And when you expose yourself, or even have the possibility or probability of being exposed to tools that could help you, they will really work hard to convince you that those things are just falderall. It's just wishful thinking. Those things never really work at all. Please don't even go that way. That's really just a fantasy. You're living in fantasy land. You understand?
Convince you to distort and view positive information as negative.
Again, a variation of the idea of positive beliefs, where again it won't even allow you to actually comprehend some of the information that you are receiving that could be helping you move in a positive direction. It will distort it, filter it, twist it in such a way that you will really see it as something other than what it is, and again not be capable of taking advantage of the positive information. It will make it seem discordant. Because you are in a negative state, out of alignment, out of phase with your true vibration, anytime the true vibration approaches you, it will get louder too and create such a cacophony of distortion. It will then make your ears bleed to listen to it, so you'll move away from that positive information. It will make it seem that you are so vibrationally incompatible with that it must be a bad thing, because you are wonderful and you are good, and anything coming to you that makes you feel this way must be bad. So please ignore it. Please run away from it as fast as you possibly can, back into my arms, where you are nice and safe and cozy forever.
And finally, convince you to justify keeping the negative belief.
When the negative belief has really done its job well and really convinced you that that's the safest place, anything and everything will be used as a justification to maintain it. Any negative feeling you have will be focused on so that you don't have to focus on the belief itself. Any negative thoughts will be focused on that you can justify the idea. You will look at your history and anything that might have happened in what you call the past that was negative to say, but look, this happened to me, so it will happen again. But look, I must be held back by habits and patterns that I was taught. But look, this is the way the world is, so who am I to say different? You will find any reason at all to justify all of these tools and tricks and keep the negative belief in charge of what it is you think, what it is you feel, what it is you say, and how it is you behave. You will now be working as the negative belief's agent on its behalf, and you will really be its minion doing its job along with it to continue to convince yourself that the negative belief is the best possible state of being for you. And then, in a sense, the negative belief can start to relax because it's convinced you that you have to do its job for it. You now work for it, and not the other way around. Fascinating, isn't it? All right. So, before we go on to the idea of the neutralizers, please understand that these things have been, as we have said, handed down and handed down and handed down. But that's not a reason why they should continue. This is just an idea. And you have projected these things, and the negative beliefs have projected themselves into all forms of archetypal iconography and imagery to make sure that they remain in the forefront of your consciousness and right in front of your face all the time. And that's okay, because polarity is going to be everywhere you look. But the key is recognizing that all of the presentations that the negative beliefs make are only that. They're just presentations, they're just symbols, they're just representations, and they don't have to contain any solidity, any validity in the sense of believing that they're true for you. They are valid as beliefs, but you don't have to prefer them, and you don't have to invalidate them. You just need to allow them to be neutral. Shall we go down the list quickly of the neutralizers?
Yes, we shall.
That being the first one that I just told you above and beyond the list, because this is the main principle behind the neutralizers, is to realize the illusion and the lies behind the negative beliefs. Because as we said in the beginning, the idea is that the negative beliefs have to work very hard to convince you that you're unworthy because you know that you are worthy. And therefore, this is all smoke and mirrors. And by demonstrating the idea of the transition from a simple recognition to a complex and quote-unquote scary archetypal presentation in your mythology, you see how the negative beliefs have to work to create illusions when all they really are just standing behind the curtain, pushing the levers, going, hope they believe this one. This is my best trick yet. I am Oz the great and powerful. You understand. And so, let's look behind the curtain.
Yes, and these are negativity neutralizers. The first being remembering that negative feelings are generated by negative beliefs.
When you understand that that's the succession, that you have to have the belief first in order to have any feeling at all, because you have to have a definition in order to know what you're feeling about, then as soon as you have a negative feeling or a feeling that's uncomfortable for you, own it. Don't try to get rid of it. Don't try to ignore it. Own it. You have to acknowledge that it's there because you can't change what you don't own. But realize that as soon as you have the feeling, you can use the feeling. Remember that the feeling has to come from a definition first. So once you feel the feeling, that can be your first aha. If I'm feeling this, there has to be a definition generating it. Let's find out what it is. What I have to believe is true in order to feel the way I do. And that can help you unlock from the fear and go into curiosity and discovery to find out what that negative belief actually is. And once you identify it, It will automatically appear illogical and nonsensical, and you realize that you simply bought into it somewhere along the way, your parents, your society, your friends, your schooling, and you will realize that it's baggage that doesn't belong to you, and you can drop it. Go ahead.
You can neutralize negative beliefs by remembering that negative beliefs are only beliefs and they're not actually true.
Everything is just a belief in terms of your physical reality experience. The only things that are absolutes are the 5 laws that we have often talked about. Everything else is just a combination of those laws and an experience of the idea of polarity projections from belief systems as a physical being, because that's what you're made of. You're really made of. Your physical mind is just made of belief systems. That's all it is. They're just filters that allow you to experience the idea of yourself as a projection into physical reality. But physical reality is just a dream. In reality, you are all, right now, still in spirit. You're just dreaming that you're not. That's it. You never leave spirit. It's your natural state. It's what you are. So you are now imposing upon your spirit, upon your consciousness, the dream that you are having a physical reality. And that's all it is. But you're still in spirit right now. So let's wake up and remember that.
Another neutralizer is remembering that beliefs can always be changed.
A belief inherently is changeable when you believe that it is. So this is the skeleton key that unlocks you from any belief, is no matter how hard a negative belief may work to convince you to buy into it, if you just give yourself an opportunity to always take a pause and remember that it is just a belief, then you will always know you always have the key to change it if you truly prefer to. That's the skeleton key that unlocks you from any belief, is just remembering that it is nothing but a belief.
Remembering that all situations are fundamentally neutral.
And again, notice how all of or most of these neutralizers have to do with just remembering these ideas. That's all. And again, remember that the negative belief is going to do its darndest to get you to forget, to get you to not realize that there are such concepts. Remember, we said it will paint these things as if it's something to not pay attention to. So in a fact, the idea of just remembering some of these ideas can, in many cases, be enough to neutralize them, just because you broke through the forgetfulness the negative belief was intending to impose upon your consciousness. Just remembering can eradicate many of these beliefs, just remembering these things. And that will put you back into a state of neutrality, which, as we have said, is actually slightly bent always in the positive direction, because neutrality is a state in which you are free to choose, and that's a positive state. So in a sense, you could say that creation is actually just slightly more positive than negative, because there is a middle state of neutrality that allows you more ease of choosing the positive. And if you just drift in neutrality, even if you just do that, the current of creation will eventually bend you in the positive direction if you do nothing else but just go with the flow. That's a powerful one, isn't it? All right.
Remember that your existence and your worth are more fundamental than any belief.
Beliefs are just the creation of the idea of the physical mind. Your existence is far more fundamental. That, in some senses, should be obvious. And if you exist, that means you have to be worthy, because creation doesn't make mistakes. And if you exist, then that means existence needs you to exist, or existence wouldn't be complete. So you are that worthy, because again, the things that existence didn't need don't exist. So your worth and your existence are far more fundamental than any belief. And if you just go back to that core remembrance, then the belief will be seen as a secondary level illusion and not a true fundamental truth or reality.
Remember that negative beliefs make positive beliefs easier to see by contrast.
You can use the idea of negativity in a positive way. That's basically what this means. So you're not invalidating the negative belief, but turning it back on itself and saying, well, thank you, negative belief, for being so dark, because by being so dark, you actually allow it to be much easier to see the little light in the distance, which, if things were brighter, I might not have noticed. So, in the vastness and empty void of space, a single tiny spark of light is much easier to see because of all the blackness. So you can use the negativity to your advantage and turn its trick around on itself by saying, thank you for showing me the contrast, because many times it's a lot easier for many of you to simply understand what it is you do prefer by being shown an example very clearly of what you don't prefer by contrast. Then you know what direction to go in more easily.
Another neutralizer is that you can remember that negative beliefs are your creation and that you're always in control, you're always empowered, and even if you're using your power to make it seem like you're out of control.
That's again the thing to understand about the nature of existence and your existence as well, is that there can be no such thing as an actual disconnection from Source. But Source supports you so unconditionally in your choices that you can choose to pretend that you are disconnected. But the paradox is the only way you can actually have an experience of disconnection is to use your connection to create it. So if you remember that you're always empowered, then you will realize and remember that the only way you could possibly have an experience of disempowerment is if you're using your power to create that experience of disempowerment. And once you remember that it's simply not actually possible to be disempowered, again, you will neutralize the negative belief's insistence on your lack of power.
Another neutralizer is if you remember that positive beliefs will never use negative reinforcement, but that negative beliefs will always use positive reinforcement because they are deceptive by design.
Exactly. So always pay attention when they are leading you down the so-called primrose path and painting a rosy picture of something that you know is actually negative, because they have to work very hard to make it seem positive in order for you to follow it. But you can recognize that they are being deceitful because that's their nature to be so in order to perpetuate themselves, because you know the truth about yourselves, and they have to lie to you to get you to buy into what they're saying by pretending that they know better, by pretending they have your best interests at heart, and then coloring things to make it look like that's the path to take, when really, if you just stood back and looked at what they were doing, you would realize that it's just a path of rocks and thorns that they're convincing you to step on.
Another thing that you can do is you can remember the yin-yang concept, that no matter how dark things may seem, you always have the ability to reach the light.
Within the idea of the polarity in existence, there is always an opportunity, just as in the yin-yang symbol, to recognize that on the dark side, there is always a spot of white. And on the dark side, there always is that, and on the white side, always a spot of dark. So that you know the doorways exist in both directions, and you can always choose. No matter how dark it may seem, you will always know there is a doorway to the light. Always. But at the same time knowing that no matter how light it seems, you always have the power to choose the dark. This again brings you back into balance, brings you back into the center point where you can neutralize everything and realize that all choices are just equally valid, and then choose what you prefer with a clear conscience and from a state of balance. So remember that symbol.
Another method is to remember to be okay with the process of discovering what your negative beliefs are so that you can let go of them.
Many people, again, are convinced by the negative belief that they should be absolutely perfectly spiritual beings by now. Why do these things keep happening to me? What's wrong with me? I should be far beyond this at this particular point. But you see, the process is the point. You will transition at some point from the idea of letting go of negative beliefs to something else. but it will always be a process. So be okay with process, because process is the point of having a physical life. Because you cannot change without the idea of process. In a timeless state, there's no change. Only by creating the illusion of space and time can you go through the idea of discovering yourself from a new point of view. So be happy with the process, love the process, be passionate about discovering through the process, because process is the equivalent of life. You're living a life that is by nature a process of discovery. That's what it's all about. The journey is the destination, the process is the point. So live in the process, live in the now with the process, and it will serve you in positive ways. Let it be okay to go through those processes. The difference will come in this way. At some point, when you are finally willing to investigate all the negative beliefs, bring them to conscious light, and let them go, the process of letting things go will continue. But the way the process then expresses itself is it changes from letting go of negative beliefs to letting go of things that are simply no longer relevant for you in life. They may be positive things, but eventually you will streamline yourself, streamline yourself, streamline yourself by letting go of even positive things that simply are no longer relevant for the being you now know and prefer yourself to be. So the process won't stop even when you let go of all the negative ideas. So please don't turn the process into another negative idea, because it isn't, or doesn't have to be.
Another neutralizer is remember that negative beliefs belong to someone else and you don't have to carry them.
Yes. As we said, things that are truly out of alignment with who you are don't belong to you. You most likely pick them up along the way. But they are baggage that belong to other people that you've simply been convinced that you have to carry. But because it belongs to other people, that's why it's so heavy. That's why it weighs you down. The beliefs that are true and in alignment for you weigh nothing. It feels effortless. You feel light as a feather. When you start to feel weighed down, that can be one of the clues you're carrying something that doesn't belong to you. So investigate it. Drop the baggage. As we have said, do not steal other people's beliefs and be a belief thief. You don't want to steal other people's beliefs. Drop them and move on and lighten your load. Remember that the first step to enlightenment is to lighten up on yourself and lighten your load.
Remember that you're never alone and you always have help.
You may always be capable of experiencing solitude in a positive way, but you are never, ever, 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 ever actually, truly alone. You cannot be, because you are connected to everything. You are everything, expressing itself as everything, expressing itself as every aspect of itself. And thus you are all the reflections, and they are you. You are never alone. You have help, you have guides, you have friends, you have family on many different levels, and connections more than you can imagine from this perspective. You can always create the experience of solitude, and that solitude will always be respected to give you the space you need to function as the individual that you are, but you are never, ever, ever alone. And the second that anyone knows that assistance is required, assistance is always given. You are constantly, in fact, being bombarded with all the assistance we, your guides, and many other beings and source can possibly give. If you feel that the assistance isn't there, it's not because it's not being given, it's because you are blocking the reception by negative beliefs and buying into them. So as soon as you let go, you will suddenly realize, and in fact almost be blinded with the assistance that is always flowing your way without let up of any kind. So tap into that river and let it flow through you, because it's always coming. It cannot stop.
Remember that you're always loved and supported, no matter what.
Again, this goes to your worthiness. If you were not worthy, you wouldn't exist. So if you exist, you're worthy. And the idea is, therefore, you have absolute right to all the energy, all the support, all the love, as you call it, of all that is, because that is the energy of existence itself. And if you are part of existence, then it is your nature to experience the ideas you translate in your reality as unconditional love and support. It's your nature that you're experiencing when you experience those energies. It's the nature of existence itself translating in physical terms that you call that feeling of unconditional love and unconditional support. It's your nature.
Remember to forgive yourself and others.
Forgiveness is exceedingly powerful as a tool. Here's exactly vibrationally why. Forgiveness is a state of being that can actually mitigate the effects of the consequences of a negative act. You have, many of you at least, heard of the idea that when you die, many people experience what is called life review. Yes? And in that life review experience, it has been reported that what happens, because there are no longer the same barriers between you and another, that you will suddenly start to experience in that life review not only the things that happened visually, but you will actually experience the consequences of anything you chose to do and the way in which others may have experienced them based on your intentions, as if you're experiencing the consequences from their point of view. You understand? So if you have in any way, shape, or form intentionally caused hurt or harm to someone, in the life review, you will feel exactly what they felt when you did that, as if you were them. Forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness from others, forgiveness to others is actually a vibrational state that will actually mitigate the effect of the consequence of a negatively intentioned act. So the more forgiveness you can create for yourselves, the more you can forgive others, the more you are evening the playing field, and the less need there is for you to experience the idea of the negative energy that was initially created by a negative act. It's as simple as that. It is a mitigation cancellation system. That's what forgiveness is as an energy. It's bringing everything back to zero.
Another neutralizing method is to remember that you can choose what you prefer without invalidating what you don't prefer.
The only reason you would choose to invalidate something you don't prefer is if you have a belief that it is somehow more powerful than you are at deciding what you prefer. Because if you have to invalidate it, then you're saying you have to have extra protection. You have to somehow shun it and push it away. But there's nowhere to push anything to. Imagine that because everything is actually here and now, that the walls of existence are right here. And if there's a big spring on the wall and you push against that spring, the only thing you're doing is building up energy in that spring by denying it and pushing it away. So at some point, that energy is going to build up so much, so powerfully, that it's going to pop back at you. It has no choice because it has nowhere to go. This is what invalidation does. But if you simply validate everything, then the springs just sit there. And you go, well, okay, there's this negative spring and there's this positive spring and they're just sitting there and I'm not going to give you undue energy. And I'm just going to choose what I prefer. This is what I prefer. That's it. There's no charge on it. This is simply a recognition of what I prefer. That's it. And then you act in that direction. And that's all there is to it. Invalidation charges the thing you don't prefer because it's a negative energy. So if you don't prefer a negative thing, why would you feed it more negative energy? By invalidating it. You're just feeding it, and when you feed something, it'll grow. Don't feed it.
Be willing to be honest with yourself about your beliefs.
Absolutely. In your investigation, do not succumb to the convincing of the negative belief that makes you go into denial that the negative beliefs are there. They're always going to be there for a while, And your excitement in following it will reveal to you any negative beliefs that may be remaining within your personality structure. And that's all right. Just discover them. Don't go into denial about it. If you go into the idea again that, well, I'm supposed to be this perfect spiritual being that has absolutely no negative beliefs, well, then that's a negative belief. Again, it's the negative belief convincing you that you're perfect so you don't have to look at things. But you are perfect anyway. You're perfect as you are. Whatever version of you are at the moment is absolutely a perfect version of what you are at the moment. In the next moment, you may be different, but you will just be a different, perfect version of that. So you're always already perfect, even though you will always constantly change.
Another important thing to remember is don't let fear stop your momentum. If you're going to be afraid anyway, then go ahead and push through it and do what you love doing regardless.
This is just a logical argument. If you're going to be afraid, why not be afraid while you're doing what you love instead of sitting around not doing anything and being afraid? It's as simple as that. You might as well, if you're going to be afraid, be doing something you love to do while you're being afraid. And as soon as you actually start moving in the direction of what you love to do, you will find that you'll be less afraid. Very simple self-canceling mechanism.
Yeah, and if you find that you are experiencing fear, push through the fear. Even though it'll get louder and stronger, that only means it's reaching its breaking point, and eventually it will dissolve.
As we said, negative beliefs have to work very hard to get your attention, to turn your face away from the truth that you're absolutely worthy. So as soon as you start moving in the positive direction, they're going to start yelling as loud as they can. They're going to start banging on drums. They're going to have a 76-piece orchestra trying to get your attention so that you will come back in that direction. So the louder it gets, the stronger the fear feels, should tell you you're really close to crossing the threshold and letting it go, or it wouldn't have to work so hard to get your attention.
And don't forget that if you're the creator of the negative belief, then you are more powerful than the negative belief.
You're the one that created it. No matter though it may convince you that it has power over you, it always knows that you are the creator of the negative belief. And of course, if you realize that, then the negative belief is neutralized. So it will do everything in its power to convince you that you are not as powerful as it is. But if you created it, you have to be more powerful than it is.
Remember, positive beliefs allow you to feel light and free. It's negative beliefs that make you feel tired and heavy.
And again, we come back to the idea of the loophole that while you can lighten your load as you go, if for some reason you are holding on and holding on and holding on and holding on and getting tireder and tireder, more exhausted, and wondering why you have absolutely no joie de vivre, then the idea can be used as a turnaround to recognize that eventually, if you maintain any degree of desire to go in the positive direction, that you will one day become so sick and tired of being sick and tired that you will finally let all of that negativity go. Now, you don't have to do that. You don't have to wait that long. But at least you know that someday, if you're that sick and tired, you might finally be willing to let go of the thing that's actually making you sick and tired.
And here's an interesting one. Drop what your ego wants.
Yes. Know the difference between what you prefer and what your ego is telling you you want. Because more often than not, what the ego wants is what the negative ego is attempting to convince you of that you need, and to distract you from what really would serve you, what would really be representative of what you need, what would really be representative of your joy. It will convince you that you must want this and you must want that in order to be happy. And again, all it's doing in many cases is leading you down a primrose path.
Let go of all of your assumptions and go to zero.
Yes, and we will continue because this will culminate in the final one.
Which is don't resist change, go with the flow.
And
Remember the famous quote,
pay attention.
it's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know that just isn't so.
Assumptions. Negative beliefs will convince you that you know what you're talking about when you don't. So always allow yourself to know that many different kinds of statements that may sound like facts may only be assumptions that are reinforced by negative beliefs to convince you that you know what you're talking about and that you know better than what someone else may be attempting to tell you that could help you. So you will become the ultimate authority. I know it all. You can't tell me anything new. But there's the trap. It's not so much that you get into trouble with what you don't know. It's what you know that just isn't so, because you've been convinced that it's true and it may not be. So always look for the things that come out of your mouth and pay attention to whether they are just assumptions or true statements of your being. Because negative beliefs will make assumptions appear to be facts, and they're nothing again but smoke and mirrors. Now again, these are just a few of the ideas, both negative and positive. It is up to your own imagination to provide whatever may work for you. But the more you allow yourself to look at this list and study this list, the more it will rub off on you the way in which negative beliefs work. You will start to really see behind the curtain, understand the illusions and the tricks, and then start to catch them in the act. And then realize how empowered you are. And then you can move in the direction that you prefer.
Good day. This transmission has been called What Happens When You Sleep? Sweet Dreams. The idea is that there are many different levels of things going on while your body is at rest. And we will start at the level of the physical. So, of course, when you are tired, when you go to sleep, on the physical level, you are relaxing the body, de-stressing the body, allowing your mental facility and observations to sort of shut down in the outer direction, turn them inward, so they can allow you to process information from your experiences of the day, to allow you to reorganize your perspective on things, and of course, physiologically, to allow your body to repair, to heal itself in the deep delta sleeps. The idea of the cycles of 3 cycles per second to 7 cycles per second allows your body, allows your chemistry, allows your cellular nature to, again, regenerate, revitalize by tapping into deep reservoirs, deep reserves of energy, allowing the energy to build back up to a certain level. The idea, again, is this can be very healing, can allow things to come back into alignment on a cellular, atomic, and subatomic level by relaxing all of the output that you experience on your daily waking regimen. So physiologically, as you all know, it is very healthy, very aligning to relax, to rest, to de-stress, to give the body a chance to go back to its natural state as much as possible, and then to feel revitalized when you wake up in the morning. Now, on the astral level and on the mental level, you have the opportunity, as I said, to sort of re-look at everything that happened in the day, reorganize your thoughts, allow yourself to learn lessons, allow yourself to extract information from your experiences of the day, and on a broader level, from the mental reaching into the astral, allowing you to start recognizing connections to other things, how everything is interrelated in the experiences you've been having, to give you some insights into how you may be able to move forward in physical life, having more awareness and more understanding of associations and relationships between different events. This happens on that high mental, lower astral level as you are resting, as you are recuperating, as you are energizing. But then on the higher astral, there are many different things that are going on while you are asleep. Again, not only the noticing of different things that may have happened in your physical life, but also being able to go to what we call the template level reality, where you can examine the basic blueprints of your agreements in life, make certain adjustments as may befit the idea of the themes that you chose to explore, examine and consider new avenues, new pathways that might be more representative of who you truly are and your path of least resistance. The idea, of course, is that as you allow on the physical level more and more de-stressing and relaxation and more aligning of your belief systems, then the things that are going on that you're learning on the astral plane can more readily be incorporated into your physical consciousness, your physical personality when you wake up. This often is what happens when you do, in fact, allow yourself to wake up feeling very refreshed, very eager to get on with your day, very excited, feeling more calm, more certain, more confident. This is when you have a real alignment between what you're doing on the astral plane and what you allow yourself to absorb on the physical plane by having aligned your belief systems and let go of those beliefs that are negative or fear-based and don't serve you, that are no longer relevant for you. You feel a new surge of energy because now the pathway between the astral level and the physical level is clearer and allows more energy to flow in a more hyperconductive and superconductive way. And this again results in more energization when you wake up in the morning. But not only are you allowing yourself to look at your agreements and your alignments and your associations on the astral plane and make whatever adjustments are necessary there for you to move forward in your physical reality experience, there are other things going on at the same time when you go a little bit higher into the astral level. Many of you will be attending different kinds of classes, spirit classes, where you are learning many different kinds of things about your relationship in the creation of your physical reality experience, many different kinds of ideas of who you are as a greater being. Many different ways are shown to you and taught to you. Choices are given to you to make on that level. You are learning about yourself as a spirit in relation to physical reality. You are learning to make certain kinds of adjustments beyond the physical in your energy, in your consciousness, that may be, again, more beneficial for you when you allow yourself to wake up into your physical dream, so to speak. But again, the idea is that the more you can clear yourself of negative or fear-based beliefs, the more you will realize that this is going on the astral level, that you may be attending, for lack of a better term, seminars and classes that teach you things that could be more applicable in your physical lives, that would allow you to experience your physical reality in a much more joyful, much more creative and imaginative way. But you have to really clear that path on the physical level to allow the physical personality to be capable of absorbing what you're learning more clearly on the astral levels. Now, going a little bit higher, there are things on the higher astral or spirit levels that you may also be engaging in. You may be interacting with spirit guides and friends and your soul family on that level, exchanging information and ideas, exchanging experiences for each other in various ways that may be helpful to each being's personal experience, either in physical, astral, or spirit reality. Making decisions for what it is you are attempting to accomplish as a greater being, what it is you are learning on the soul level that can aid and assist you in moving forward in the future, not only in physical reality, but in spirit as well. You may also be interacting and practicing for other things you may do when you leave the physical reality, like perhaps being a spirit guide yourself, being trained in that way. You may be attempting to assist individuals who may be having a challenge in their death, who may be remaining in the lower astral realms, not disconnecting from physical reality in the way that would best serve them. So you may be practicing to help them to be a spirit guide and help them cross over in easier ways, in more joyful ways, to recognize they may have in fact passed on, which sometimes many spirits don't, based on their belief systems, to aid and assist them in becoming more of who they are from the spirit side, as well as those who may be inclined from the physical side to help those ghosts cross over as well. This used to be known as the idea of a spirit guide from the physical level, a spirit psychologist, so to speak, but has sort of devolved into this idea and misinterpretation of exorcism. So the idea really is that it used to be that spiritual psychologists from the physical side and spiritual psychologists from the spirit side could aid and assist in the crossing over of many beings to help them adjust to the idea and remember who they truly are in spirit and move forward in that way. Now, aside from the physical and the astral levels and the spirit levels, in terms of the things you may be learning and the things you may be practicing for what you may call the future of your involvement on the spirit level as a spirit yourself, you also then are presented with many different pathways and many different choices for what might come next. Maybe not even remaining in the idea of the earth plane or the earth focus, so to speak. You may be more aware on that level now of connections that you have made to other dimensions, other extraterrestrial societies. And on the extraterrestrial question, in the process of sleeping and going to the higher spirit levels, you may now be more aware of the agreements you have made with regard to the evolution of the earth, the hybridization agenda, the creation of the hybrid races, the coming of the hybrid children to live among you physically on earth eventually, and the blending together that will allow earth to evolve forward into what we have termed the sixth hybrid race. But you also, on that level, may be very, very aware of the connections you have made to different extraterrestrial civilizations. You may now start to really allow yourself to play out and experience alternate realities, counterpart selves in those civilizations of Sirius or Pleiades or Arcturus energy or what have you, and allow yourself to really start to incorporate some of that information, experience, and energy more fully into what it is you are experiencing when you wake up in your physical reality on Earth, giving you the opportunity to broaden your perspective that Earth is really truly part of a galactic family. And therefore, again, by clearing out certain belief systems and fear-based ones in your physical personality, can more fully absorb what you're learning on the higher spiritual planes with respect to your connections to extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional civilizations and their experiences. And you can even on that level start to experience how they experience the idea of sleeping and what happens for them when they dream, what happens for them when they travel astrally. Because again, even though all spirit in a sense is the same kind of spirit, every different spirit has its own experiences in the reality that they have allowed themselves to dream they are in. And therefore, you can really start seeing the interconnections, the inner workings, the relationships between all the different civilizations that form a kind of galactic family, a galactic soul family, and may even on that level start to really experience the connections of higher levels of the soul, the oversoul, and the connections and extensions it may have with regard to the idea of the different civilizations, as well as parallel reality counterparts that you may be connecting to. All of these things can be going on when you sleep. You are very active because remember, spirit doesn't really sleep. Only the physical form does. And again, this is mostly to regenerate, to recharge your batteries. And the reason for this, again, is because physical reality is something that isn't real. It's something that you have to continue to project. And because it's not really real in the sense of being solid and an actual place, you have to maintain it, so to speak, because it's not your natural state. You require reconnection to your natural state to bring through the energy and maintain the illusion that physical reality is real. And the way that you fundamentally know that physical reality is not real is that it deteriorates, because what is real never deteriorates. And therefore, physical reality, by expressing deterioration, decay, coming apart, segregation in that sense, separation in that sense, that's your first clue that physical reality is nothing more than a projected illusion of consciousness, and that you have to maintain it, even physiologically. You have to upkeep things and so on and so forth. And all of those things that have to do with maintenance and upkeep tell you that physical reality is a temporary manifestation, a projection of your consciousness, and isn't really as real as your true natural self, which requires no maintenance at all. In spirit, you don't sleep. In spirit, you don't eat. And all of these things are simply representative of the fact that this is your natural state, your natural eternal state, your infinite state. And from that state, you can explore many things as we have just outlined, and many other things that we may discuss at a future date. But you are, when you are sleeping, very busy on other levels in a number of different ways. And we are happy to present all of these different ideas for your consideration. And we will also add another exercise at another time that will allow you more opportunity to more consciously be aware of what you're doing on the astral and spirit levels with regard to Earth and extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional connections. But until then, allow yourself to simply, when you drift off to sleep, realize how involved, how connected, and how busy you are when you are not active in physical terms, when you're not really living the physical dream per se. There are many things going on, many exciting things you are learning, many amazing things you are doing, and we will leave you with that for the moment.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Lucy, and I'm French-Canadian. And over 30 years ago, Ireland infiltrated my life in many, many aspects. And to this day, I still feel pulled by this country, the land and its history, the energy there. And I would like to understand. So then I started to think about past life regression hypnosis. But then it doesn't make much sense because of your teaching about everything is existing here and now, everything is happening here and now, and that we connect energetically to past lives and future lives also. So I'm baffled. I don't know how to make sense of that connection with Ireland. Can you help me, direct me? I would appreciate your help. Thanks.
Explore whatever technique you wish, because it doesn't matter that you understand the mechanics of it and how it actually works. If you're still attracted to using the idea of a post-hypnotic technique for the idea of connecting to a so-called past self, it's all right to do that, and you can simply reconcile both ideas in the idea that it's a permission slip that works for you, that allows you to connect. Whether that person actually exists in the past or simultaneously really makes no difference in terms of the effectiveness of the technique that you may choose to use. So you can understand the mechanics while simply using a technique that may be using the idea of outdated terminology. As long as you feel attracted to use it, it can still work for you.
Hello, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
I'm very good, thank you. Happy to talk to you.
And happy to talk to you as well.
So Bashar, I wanted to talk a little bit more about dreams.
Yes.
I have a few questions. Let's say in the morning, I wake up and I remember that I traveled to Esasani and that I met you and talked to you.
Yes.
So my spirit can be doing that right now that I'm awake. I just realize
Yes.
when I'm sleeping that I am doing it.
Yes.
Okay, so the part of us that dreams, if I ask who is the dreamer, is the complete part of my being, the higher mind, my spirit, the part that is on physical reality.
It depends on the reason you're doing what you're doing. It can involve different levels. It can involve all of them. It just depends on what you need to access in order to do whatever it is you're doing.
Okay, so a lucid dream, when I wake up in the dream, it just means a realization that I am both a physical and a non-physical being.
And you're coming more from the idea of the higher mind.
Okay. Okay. And I was thinking about the different stages during the dream night. If a person sleeps maybe 8 hours, and usually the first hours for me are like, I don't really remember anything, and maybe the second to fourth hour dreams are a little spooky, a bit weird, intense.
All right.
And then in the morning, they just seem to be more clear, more soft, more lucid.
Yes, well, you do go through cycles, as your scientists already know, when you do dream. And the cycles can be representative of different aspects of your personality, different things being done, different things being looked at and considered, different things being processed in different ways, depending upon the belief systems that the personality is holding on to. So, yes, of course, you'll go through cycles and have different ways of experiencing the consciousness that you are relative to the things you need to understand about yourself as an earth personality. So that's not unusual.
Okay. And when you talk about going to the temperate level reality, we could sort of go there during the night at any point, every night.
Well, at points that are relevant for you, yes.
Okay. But we do go every night.
No,
And that,
no.
oh,
No, again, all these things may be going on because everything exists at once, but you, from a linear perspective, will not necessarily experience doing the same thing every single night. Again, it depends on what it is you need to do that night. You may spend the entire night in a class.
oh, okay.
That just depends. Now, when I say the entire night, I mean relatively speaking, because time on the spirit level is not what it is in physical reality. So it may seem like a blip relative to your physical sense of time, but it will unspool in your memory when you wake up as the dream that seems to take all night. So remember that when you wake up and you remember a dream, what you are doing is allowing your physical mind to construct its interpretation of the experience that you had using the props and symbols that it is familiar with, at least to the best that it can. So the idea is that what may seem to be a dream that lasted all night may actually only have been constructed in the last few seconds before you woke up. But it will seem to represent something that seemed to happen relative to physical time and spirit time to have happened or taken all night, because you're used to classes taking a long time in your reality, even though it may not have taken that much time in terms of spirit time.
Okay.
Is this making sense to you? Do you understand what we're saying?
Yes, it does.
All right.
And so can we be intentional in terms of before going to sleep, I could somehow direct myself, or that I'll just leave to my spirit side?
You can do either, and yes, you can become more intentional about it, and there are a number of different permission slips that can perhaps allow you to do so. As long as you do them without absolute insistence, just by using whatever permission slips you're attracted to use and allowing it to do whatever it does as being the thing that it necessarily needs to do at that moment, then yes, you can be intentional.
And so, Bashar, when we dream with our, and remember dreaming about our parents, our family members, whether they're alive at the moment or not,
Yeah,
usually we're actually interacting with them, or it could be a symbol and it's somebody else.
it can be either. And we can't really give it a percentage because it will depend upon each and every individual in terms of what percentage they may require for that kind of interaction, as opposed to something that they're simply processing.
Okay, I see. And in terms of the dreams that are what we could say, not nightmares, but when we are interacting and we perceive something that is negative, sometimes I'll give you an example.
Yes.
My partner wakes me up sometimes in the middle of the night because I start talking and seem a little afraid. And I usually remember that I'm sort of fighting with a being, or sort of.
All right. Well, again, it can be for several reasons. Number one, you may be processing certain kinds of ideas that are representative of fear-based beliefs that you're holding on to in your unconscious mind, and bringing them out in the dream state, in a sense, is safer than living through them in physical reality, yes?
Okay.
So sometimes nightmares are simply you processing things that you don't necessarily then have to experience in physical terms.
Yeah, it's not like necessarily like we believe that we are interacting negative beings or etc. It doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way. It might be you exploring something that might be considered negative. But again, remember that you're just exploring in an astral state and nothing can really happen to you in that sense that you don't allow to happen. But again, the physical mind will interpret even an interaction in what you might call a negative energy or a negative reality or a negative being in a way that makes sense to it when you wake up, and therefore can kick you into the idea of survival mode. But that's the physical interpretation of something that wasn't necessarily experienced that way on the astral level.
Okay. Just last night, and this has happened to me before, I have dreams that I'm sort of falling from a balcony or falling from a place, and there's I don't know, a building, and I might fall, and I feel like I'm falling. So is that?
Well, that just could be an interpretation of you going back into your body.
Oh, okay.
Because to you, the interpretation feels like going from a higher level quickly to a lower level, which can be interpreted again by your physical personality as if you're falling, using the symbols it understands, like gravity and falling off a building and so on and so forth. It can be other things,
Yeah.
but I'm saying it could also just be that.
And the opposite of flying, that many of us fly sometimes and remember flying.
Yes, because again, the spirit is unlimited by physical terms like gravity. Therefore, your physical mind will interpret that as flying.
Okay. And
Does that help?
Just one last question about dreams. Have I interacted with you on dreams?
You have interacted with my society's energy, and you have interacted with counterparts you may have in my society. I have, from time to time, been aware of such interactions, but the idea is, for now, we usually allow such interactions directly with us to happen in this format rather than in the dream format for a variety of reasons I will go into at another time.
Okay. Can I ask a question, a different subject?
Well, that was a question on a different subject.
Just curious about horses.
Yes.
I have dreamed a lot about horses,
All right.
and I found them fascinating. I usually have lucid dreams with horses, at
All
least
right.
3 times that I can remember. What kind of symbol is a horse for?
Well, it depends on the culture that's looking at the animal. But in general, the horse represents the new way. Look at it this way. Indigenous Americans knew of the dog, but they didn't, up to a certain point, know about the horse. When they were introduced to the horse, they called it the greater dog. The dog is representative of service, the horse representative of service in a new way to carry you farther, carry you faster toward yourself, toward your truth. So we'll just leave you with that particular interpretation for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bashar. Good day.
Good day.
Bye.
Hey Bashar, it's your boy Rohan, aka RX Mundi from Bucks County, PA. And my question today has to do with law of attraction and manifestation in general. I know there's a really powerful technique where you can embody the energy of your future self now, or to live in the wish fulfilled, as it's often called. But lately I've been having a real challenge with this. I'm just wondering if you could help me out with what are some limiting beliefs that might prevent me from doing this. And yeah, that's about it. And thank you so much, Bashar. Shavai.
Again, it's all back to the formula, because again, it contains all the tools that will allow you to investigate yourself, to discover limiting beliefs that don't serve you and let them go. Again, you must have honest self-examination while you're acting on your passion to the best you can. Don't assume, don't insist, stay in a positive state no matter what manifests, because it needs to be there for some reason that could serve you. If you stay in a positive state, you will get the benefit from it. Constantly examine your belief systems, letting go of the ones that are fear-based or negative that don't serve you. Negative beliefs can be of service depending on how you use them in positive ways. For example, you are obviously using a negative mechanism to limit your consciousness to be able to have a physical reality experience, because you are naturally much bigger than the idea of your physical reality personality. But the idea is that it comes with all the tools necessary to allow you to continue not only to act on your passion, but to continue to examine yourself, to explore yourself, and to hone your skills at having better discernment about what is and isn't relevant for the themes that you chose to explore. Let synchronicity guide you. Remember, there is the synchronicity we call the green light synchronicity that will say, here's an opportunity you are able to act on that will manifest what you need. And here's the synchronicity that says, stop, no, don't go down that path. Don't beat your head against the wall. This is not your path right now. It may become your path later. It may not. But synchronicity using the go and the stop red light mechanism will create a corridor for you to travel down that is representative of the path you chose to be in this life. So rely on the efficacy of the automatic things built into the formula to guide you by simply continuing to act on the formula to the best you can.
Today's transmission is a break from the steps. We would like to introduce a deeper explanation of the concept of what we refer to as soul cycle, the cycle of the soul. So your title is Soul Cycle. The idea being that in looking at the diagram that we have provided, you start as a soul. Imagine a sphere of light, choosing to become physical, or in other words, to have a physical experience, as we have outlined, is the product of the soul choosing specific paths, specific experiences, so the soul can grow, specific ideas, specific challenges. And this is done by creating certain patterns of energy within the soul, and these patterns of energy will allow part of the soul to render down bit by bit, collapsing down into the center of the soul, as you see in the diagram. These vibrations and these specific frequencies, these specific vibrations, as they collapse down into the center, as they are focused into the center of the soul, first and foremost, create the idea of the planning stage, the blueprint stage, the template stage, where you lay out, vibrationally speaking, all of the challenges, all of the themes that you are choosing to explore specifically for the soul's growth in what you refer to as this incarnation. So this is where you arrange and order, from conversations with your guides, with soul family, so on and so forth, the beginning of condensing down into a kind of pattern, that which represents the blueprint of the physical experience that you are choosing to have. It orders the idea of what the personality will be like, how you will approach things, and the way in which you will allow yourself to experience challenges so that you can transform them and overcome them. And then as the vibrations continue to condense a part of the soul, remember, the whole soul still stays there. That has not shrunk, but the condensation has happened within the soul, so that a part of the soul, some of the material, so to speak, of the soul, within the soul is being condensed down by these vibrations, by these frequencies that represent the soul's path in physical experience, reality. And so as it continues to condense, now you're talking about arriving at the level where the soul is about to be born physically through the physical processes that you experience in space and time, physical birth. And in that condensation,
The soul develops the connection again, remains and retains the connection with the higher mind, which is what the soul is. But now you have a reference to the idea of becoming a physical focused being, but maintaining the connection to the soul, which you are now starting to refer to as the higher mind, the non-physical mind, that remains in spirit, so to speak, or remains its natural spirit self, because even the physical body is still within spirit because it's within the soul. It's just an arrangement of frequencies that allows you to experience the idea of physicality in a different way than you typically experience yourself as a spirit, as a soul. But the idea is that the body is still part of the spirit, part of the soul. It's just a different arrangement of it, a different focus within it. And now you've arrived where you have the physical birth and being a young child, which is still very strongly connected in awareness to the soul and can, in a sense, kind of expand back out and condense again and expand back out in a way that you would recognize from the space-time perspective as the opportunity for the young child to still go back to spirit, to not necessarily remain as a physical focused being. So for about 7 years on average, a young child still has the ability to be aware of its connection to all that is, its connection to higher mind and soul, to communicate freely, to remember things like other incarnations, so on and so forth, other connections to extraterrestrial forms, so on and so forth, but to also start organizing over those 7 years, on average, can be 9 years, can be less, but on average about 7 years, start organizing in a way that it starts absorbing ideas telepathically from its parents, its society, its schooling, its friends, to lay the foundation, to overlay the challenges, the belief systems, to feed the personality with the belief systems and arrange them that will be representative of the challenges that soul chose to face. So now this is where they start becoming crystallized into a physical personality based on the belief systems that are necessary in order to experience the challenges that the soul chose to experience in order to discover new aspects, new perspectives of itself, and to grow by transforming these challenges and overcoming these challenges to discover a new aspect of the self. And then, in the final completion of the solidification, the crystallization of that physical persona within the center of the soul, when all the vibrations have, in a sense, finished their task of creating that physical personality within the center of the soul, now you have the older child or the adult that is fully ensconced within the idea of the physical reality it has chosen to experience, the culture it has chosen to experience, the belief systems, the themes it has chosen to experience, and how the personality expresses itself, and how it goes about responding, reacting through the belief systems to whatever it is that will give it the best opportunity to face these challenges and to transform them in a way that will allow the soul to grow. Then the cycle, in a sense, is reversed. As the soul and the physical personality learns more and more, as it chooses to transform challenges in a variety of different ways, the consciousness begins to expand again. And so the physical crystallized idea of the personality that is representative of the physical being starts to soften, starts to expand back out again, and becomes more aware, becomes more connected, aware of its connections to higher mind and other dimensions and spirit and ETs and all sorts of things. And this is the transition that you experience from the very dense third density physical experience to the less dense fourth density physical experience, which is where many of you are now transitioning into. You're becoming a fourth density human. That means your consciousness is a little bit more relaxed, more expanded, going back out toward the idea of what you are as a soul, allowing more of the vibrational connections that created your physical personality to be used as conduits of communication to the soul, to the higher mind, so that you can inform yourself, you can be a better antenna and a receiver for messages from your guides and soul family and angelic realms and extraterrestrials and extra dimensionals and parallel realities and so on and so forth. Now you're using those vibrations that the soul used to create the physical personality as conduits of communication. So now these vibrations serve a different function. Whereas initially they were used to collapse a part of the soul into a physical persona, now with the expansion of your consciousness back outward a little bit, you are now able to use those same vibrational frequencies as conduits of communication. And then the next step up, you can see, is more the idea of a representation of an out-of-body experience, an astral form, which you experience when you are dreaming, when the body is asleep, where you are going on adventures and having conversations and having other experiences that the physical personality may remember as a dream. But for the moment, you are a little bit more expanded. And when you wake up in the morning, you may collapse back down again, but maybe not so far. So again, you are retaining the ability to ponder what that experience was about in terms of what you remember as a dream. And you are able to use those conduits of communication more efficiently because of what you learned by having the astral experience, the out-of-body experience, while your body was asleep, when you were dreaming. And so the idea is that then the astral form, being closer to spirit, between, it is not on this chart, but between the fourth density level expansion diagram and between the astral diagram is where my civilization is. As we say, we are quasi-physical, having the traits of both physical reality and spirit, so that we are actually experiencing the way you would experience reality as an astral being while we are still physical. So halfway in between that second and third stage on the diagram on the right is where my civilization exists, where we are evolving more toward being permanently astral, permanently spirit, but still retain physical properties in many different ways for a variety of reasons. But then as you start practicing more of becoming more expanded as a consciousness, spending more time in the astral realm, making different kinds of connections, learning what you needed to learn as lessons from that physical experience, and then arriving toward the end of the timing that you chose for your physical experience, then you go through the idea of the physical death, you're expanding back out fully into spirit, back fully into the idea of the soul form that you are, that sphere of light, that sphere of energy, that is the natural form of your soul. And so you have then completed the cycle, which then you can decide to do again in a different way, going round and round and round, collapsing into the center, expanding back out, collapsing into the center and expanding back out as you experience what you perceive from your linear space-time perspective to be a series of incarnational experiences that you call past lives and present lives and alternate lives, parallel lives and future lives and so on and so forth. But it's all happening within the soul as you collapse down, expand back out, collapse down, expand back out, and experience the idea of space-time and then timelessness, and space-time and then timelessness. We will talk about the degree of time in another transmission, because there is a difference between the way you experience the concept of time in physical reality, the way you experience the concept of time as a soul, and the way that the oversoul experiences the concept of time. And we will discuss this at another time. But for now, you can see in this chart the idea of the soul cycle, the cycle of the soul, as it creates experiences within itself and then goes back to its full self and then condenses down for a different experience and goes back. So it's kind of like breathing, in and out, in and out, the expansion and collapse and focus of consciousness and the expansion back into the idea of the full awareness of the soul. Now, this idea still all happens simultaneously, even though we are describing it from a linear perspective, as if these condensations happen one after another. That's the linear perspective. But again, we will discuss at another time the perspective of the Oversoul, where all of these collapses down to different personalities and all the expansions back up to the soul level all happen simultaneously from the Oversoul's point of view. So, we would like to have then presented this to you so you can ponder this cycle, ponder this chart, and understand the idea of what is happening so that you realize that the truth is your body does not have a soul. Your soul has a body. You don't have a soul, you are a soul. And it is within yourself as a soul that everything you call the physical reality experience happens until you decide to expand back out and experience yourself once again as the full soul that you are, always have been, and forever shall be, because you are eternal and you are infinite, and that is who you are, and that is what you are as an aspect of all that is. So we thank you for allowing us to share this idea with you this day of your time.
What are some of the greatest lessons that you think that Bashar has brought in through, or you've channeled in through yourself, that you want to kind of put out into the world?
Well, I would say, again, the basic thing is what he calls the formula, which is a very simple 5-step idea. Number one, it's very critical from his point of view to follow your passion, what he calls the vibration of your true core self. Because we have, from his perspective, a physical mind and we have a non-physical higher mind, the part of us that's still in spirit. And the two work together, theoretically, when we allow it to, as a guiding system. So he's saying the higher mind communicates to the physical mind in an energy language. Our physical bodies and physical minds translate those energy messages from our higher mind into the physical sensation we call passion or love or excitement or curiosity or attraction. So when we are willing to act on the passion that is presented to us, when we find something that we're suddenly passionate about, acting on it is what responds to the higher mind and says, I heard you. I hear you telling me that the reason that this excites me is because this is me. This is my path. This is my vibration. Because according to Bashar, while the higher mind speaks in terms of energy messages, the physical mind language is action, not words. We're in a physical reality. You need to take physical actions to allow things to happen. So when we are willing to act on the passion that the higher mind guides us towards, we're responding to it and creating a dialogue that then can continue. If we don't act on the passion, the higher mind isn't going to send us any other opportunities to do so until we act on what it's already given us. So acting on your passion forms a strong connection or a strong awareness of our connection to our higher minds and allows us to receive the guidance and act on that guidance that leads us down the path that is true for us. The second thing is to take that action to the best we can as far as we can until we can act on it no longer. So it's like you explore every path, every opportunity to do what it is that excites you, what you're passionate about, until you just simply can't find any other way to do it. And that means at that moment, something else needs to be acted on. And it may seem to have no connection to what you were doing. But if it is your highest passion at that moment, it's the thread of passion that you follow that tells you it is connected. Because who knows, you may be doing something like making a movie, and suddenly there's something that comes up that seems to be an obstacle, and you just can't get from A to Z anymore. So you look around, you go, well, what can I do out of all the things I can choose to do today? What can I do that is more exciting than any other option, even just a little bit more exciting? Well, I feel like taking a walk on the beach. Well, how does that connect to me making my movie? I don't know, but I'm going to follow it. And while you're taking that walk on the beach, synchronicity comes in and you overhear a conversation between two people that is the answer you were looking for to move you ahead in making your movie. That's how it works. Everything is interconnected. But when you follow the passion, synchronicity makes that evidential. So the third thing is to act on that. And this is the tough thing for most people. You have to act on your passion to the best you can with absolutely zero insistence or assumption as to what you think the outcome should be. Because the truth is, we have no clue what the best outcome actually should look like. Sometimes we might guess, but we don't really know. So by dropping the expectation and the insistence on what the outcome should look like, we allow the higher mind and synchronicity to bring us the outcome that actually will work best for what our true purpose in being here is all about. And the next thing is, no matter what happens, even if it's something we technically don't prefer, that's not vibrationally compatible with us, that doesn't feel right to us, we have to stay in a positive state, because we have to know that that happened for a reason, and that there is a way, by staying in a positive state, that we can actually get a benefit from that non-preferred thing happening in our lives. So a simplistic example would be, something can come up that we don't prefer, if for no other reason to teach us more clearly the difference, by contrast, between what we don't and do prefer. And that's a preferable way to use what you don't prefer. It's a positive way to use what you don't prefer. It's here for a reason. How can I, by contrast, figure out with clarity how I can go more in the direction of what I do prefer by seeing more clearly what I don't prefer? It clarifies your mind. It clarifies your understanding of the path you're on, to see things sometimes in contrast. The fifth thing, the last thing, is you have to work on your beliefs, and you have to let go of all the fear-based ones, all the negative ones that are holding you back from being yourself. You know, I'm afraid I might fail. I won't be good enough. People will think I'm nuts. All these things have to clear out of you, so that this mechanism, this formula, can work more efficiently within you. And when you do all of that, when you take those steps and apply them as precisely and cleanly as possible, the synchronicity in your life goes absolutely crazy, to crazy magical levels that are almost beyond belief. And your life just becomes this ecstatic explosion of synchronicity, one after another, to the point where you could tell people stories and they almost won't believe you, because it just seems too good to be true, too magical, too weird, too crazy. I can give you a perfect example. When we were making the documentary First Contact, and we were looking for a narrator, right? We wound up with someone else, but the first narrator I wanted was this particular actor who's very well known. I won't mention his name. And we just said, you know, how are we going to get in contact with this actor? Well, okay, we'll send some kind of a letter to his agent. We'll look up his agent. We'll send a letter. The next day, a friend of ours wanted to have lunch and recommended a restaurant I never go to. But we said, fine, we'll go there. I walked in the door, and who was walking out? This actor. And it was just like, hey, we just sent your agent a letter to explain that we would like you. He said, well, yeah, okay, I'll take a look. But the fact, out of a city of, you know, millions of people, in a restaurant I never would have gone to, except my friend recommended it, this actor, the one we just sent a letter to the day before, was right in front of my face, and I got a chance to explore that possibility with him. Those are the kinds of things that happen consistently when you apply this formula in your life. It's just like everything starts to fall into place. Everything shows you that it's interconnected, that we're not really isolated. So it's a very incredible experience.